Career Fair and coming to our IP showcase. I'm Mark Nausha. I run GameLab with Steve Stringer. We're both faculty and we run GameLab. GameLab does a couple things. We publish games, we license our IP, we do events, we connect students to industry. What you're going to see here are our 3 capstone games from C26. These were done in roughly 16 weeks. So anyone that's interested in like the licensing or the IP aspect, think of these as prototypes to be developed further. And this is being twitched out, so if you miss any of this, we have video of it. So we can get right into Up in the Air.
We'll get started with the trailer, so just let that play first. Designer from Studio Jiggly. We're a team of 13 student developers and this plant, I guess. And we're here to show our open world sandbox game, Up in the Air. So the game is pretty big. We're not going to be able to show you everything that's in it, but we're going to try to give you a good sampler. And really, honestly, for a 13-person team, we were pretty small, so we had to face a lot of challenges and overcome them in figuring out how to make such a big open world. So when we started, we wanted to make sure that the players' basic actions were really fun. We knew we wanted to make a game about a balloon, so we started by asking ourselves, what does a balloon do? And we prototyped rapidly a lot of different things a balloon could do, and those became our power-ups. So everyone can run, jump, boost around, but they can also do things like inflate into a huge balloon and fly into the air. They can pull children and objects toward them with static. And because they have 2 power-ups at one time, they can use them both in interesting and creative combinations, like pulling everything up into the air with static while you're inflated. So once we had that down, we knew we had a pretty fun game to play around with. We wanted to ask ourselves, how can we fill this with content that's interesting and fun for the player? And the answer we came up with was what we call gameplay bites. So these are little bits of gameplay. They're strewn throughout the game, and they have basically a consistent set of rules, but they can be modified to be more difficult or interesting based on their environment. So for instance, this is a ring race. You saw earlier you can just run through the rings, but it can be made more interesting by putting in a bouncy castle, so you bounce between the 2 rings. But this can scale up even further. This is just the first area of the game. If we skip forward to the medieval section of a theme park, we have a hopscotch game across a river. So because the river is pretty wide, it's a little difficult to jump across. And you can do it just by jumping and boosting, but if you creatively use your power-ups, it's a little bit easier. So you could inflate to float yourself over. You could use ground pound to slam down exactly on the spot you wanted. And we really want players to explore the different possibilities that they have for interacting with our games. So if we skip forward, we'll show you another example. We have a golf mini game. Basically, it's just like normal golf, and you can hit the ball with your body. You have 15 strokes to get in the hole. But because it's a little bit hard, because there's cactuses there, and you're a balloon. Cactuses are not your friend. But if you use power-ups like air blast to push the balloon or ground pound to punt it up, it's a little bit easier. And we want players to kind of explore that possibility. But even if they mess up and get popped, it's not a big deal. The game is really about exploring the possibilities of the system and figuring out interesting ways to solve challenges. So even if you die, you just get teleported back to where you can get new power-ups, change up your strategy, and buy items, and you don't lose any currencies or anything like that. And that's really good because we wanted the game to be like cartoonishly unpredictable, and really what represents that for our game is the children, or your main antagonists. So if you're trying to accomplish a gameplay bite like soccer, kids can be really annoying because they try to kick you, and some even try to pop you. But the kids have a lot of interactions with all the other systems of our game. So for instance, they like certain items. These kids are very hungry, so they like food. All kids are very hungry. So they'll chase after that instead of going after you. Very, very realistic. You can also use a decoy version of you to throw at them, and they much prefer that. And they'll interact with each other. They'll try to steal the balloon from each other. If you're holding food, they'll try to steal it from you. And you can solve these problems in a lot of different ways. You can even use power-ups to defeat them. So, well, not defeat them, you just push them away. But we really want to give the player a lot of options to play around with the kids. One thing I really love to do in the game is use the kids to boost me up by having them kick me and then getting to a higher place. So where this really comes together, or you may have seen a little bit of Hot Dog Kid. Where this really comes together is in the arenas. And we think of these as basically like an Uber gameplay bite. So this is a closed area of gameplay. As you can see, you're constrained in, and you have a specific challenge that tests your knowledge of the game systems. In this one, the kids are trying to eat hot dogs, and you're trying to put them in the trash can before they can eat them. And so you can accomplish this just by carrying them, but maybe it's easier to use air blast to push them in, or static to pull them towards you. And this is a place where we can really give players who are invested in the systems and are figuring out how to use the different power-ups, different ways to accomplish challenges and more an interesting system. So what's great about this as well is that it's actually graded. So depending on how well you do the arena, you get different rewards. And so this encourages players to play multiple times and figure out the best strategy for accomplishing the arena. We have 15 seconds left. We'll see whether he can get a gold medal. But I think it should be possible. But we have 3 of these in the game. There's actually 3 regions. And this was a really great way to kind of focus the gameplay into one spot and do something we couldn't do normally. So he got a silver medal, Sam, so he gets 3 tickets. And this is kind of the currency of the game and how you get rewarded most of the time. These allow you to unlock power-ups and stuff like that. So what the ticket system allows us to do is make a lot of the parts of the game interactable and make it so that you can be rewarded for doing a lot of different things. So if we skip forward, one of the best examples of this is the castle. So I'm sure you've seen it throughout the game. There's this huge castle. It's the first thing when you walk through the park, we frame it, make sure you see it. And this castle, the player's probably wondering, can I climb it? Can I go in it? Can I interact with it in a way? And you can. So we have these catapults here. You can throw normal objects as much as you want. But if you find the special cannonball, you can fire that at the castle. And I'll just let you see, but it's pretty cool. That kid does not want the castle broken. So it blows up. And that's pretty cool by itself, but what's even better is that this opens up paths for you to travel into the castle. So we're just going to show you can use Inflate to now fly up. Now that you've broken that spot, it gives you a place to get in, and it also unlocks an air vent that can push you even higher. And we want to reward the player for exploring these systems and figuring out different things that they can do within them. So if you see here, we reward you with a skin. And this is kind of like our ultimate reward for the game. You get to look really cool. And we think that this goal of making the whole game interactive has really worked out very well. I mean, we still have fun playing the game. We still enjoy messing around. It's really hard to practice for this because we just like messing around with the kids while we're playing. And it actually got us to go to Intel University Games Showcase. We were selected, and we got 3rd place for gameplay in a really packed field. So we're really proud of what we did. And we have a lot in the game. As you can see over here, the map represents each question mark is a gameplay byte. We have over 100 things to see in the game. And with such a small team of 13 people, I think we worked really well together. We had a lot of communication, and we were always making sure that everyone was updated about what we were supposed to do with really, really efficient pipelines, and that allowed us to make so much even though we only had about a 16-week timeline. So as we go off, I'll let us ride into the sunset on my favorite interaction in the game, the horses. And I hope you guys enjoyed the game. We're really proud of it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Jake, and thanks Up in the Air. So next up is Lost in the Dark. You guys can all come on. You're up. It's all yours.
There you go. You guys All right, hello everybody. We are Sleepless Dreamer Studios. We're really excited to show you our capstone game, Lost in the Dark, today. My name is Justin Gibbs. I'm the producer for the project. My driver here is Larry Shin. And not pictured with us is Leon. He's down here. He's running the stream for us. So let's just give him a quick round of applause for running the stream. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the tutorial of Lost in the Dark. We're going to take you through the beginning of our game and kind of talk about some of our design as we go through it. So Lost in the Dark is a third-person horror exploration game where the player controls a young girl named Caroline as she wanders throughout her feverish nightmares while she's constantly being chased by death. Lost in the Dark takes place in Victorian England, where there's a horrible plague that's ravaging the countryside. And Caroline is an orphan. She's been dropped off at this orphanage, and she's made a lot of friends. And just recently, she's had to watch as her friends get plucked away one by one by this horrible sickness. And finally, Caroline herself has come down with the illness. And she's fallen into a sleepy state, and this is her nightmare that she's trying to escape. Caroline's mind is broken up into these small sections that are separated by her memories, represented by these paintings. Each memory that she has is incomplete in some way, and so Caroline has to figure out what's missing from her memories by looking at the paintings, find the object in the environment, and then drop it into the altar to complete the painting, which then opens up a new way forward to the deeper recesses of her mind. In Lost in the Dark, light is life and darkness is death. And so Caroline's lantern that she's got here represents her life force. And whenever she's in the light of her life force, she's safe. But whenever the light source goes out or she loses contact with the light source, she starts to fade away. So she has a couple of actions, two actions that she can take with her lantern. The first is a spotlight mode, where she can illuminate things that are farther away from her, and she can also illuminate objects that are wrapped in shadow that may be blocking her way forward. So this bad guy is somebody who we lovingly call Bagman internally. Bagman is Caroline's mental representation of death and the sickness that's trying to come get her. And she's constantly running away from being caught by Bagman. So Caroline doesn't have a way that she can combat Bagman, but she can hide her lantern, which turns her into a ghost, and she starts to fade away, and she can run away from Bagman. However, when she's hiding, she's slowly fading away, and if she hides for too long, she will cease to exist. So even when she's hiding, she's not actually safe. In Lost in the Dark, we wanted players to feel a sense of tension when they're playing the game. So every time they go around a corner, we want the player to be worried that Bagman's right around the corner trying to get them. There's always uncertainty, and we wanted them to feel unsafe and very tentative while they're going through this space. The way that we sold this idea of tension is through three different methods. The first is our awesome lighting that we've got. The second is a dynamic sound system that changes based on the situation that the player's in. So when Caroline's in danger, the sound ramps up, and when there's nothing going on, it stays calm. And that lets us sort of have situations where there's high tension and then nothing actually happens, or there's low tension and then all of a sudden Bagman's in your face. The last method that we used is Caroline's animations. And so in order to fit Caroline in this world, she needed to feel like she was lost and alone and afraid while she's in this dark mansion. And so we really wanted the player to have empathy with our character, relate to Caroline, and want Caroline to get to safety, and we want the player to respond well to Caroline and want to get her to safety, want to help her regain her memories. We want that empathy to drive the player forward. We want the connection with the character to be the primary motivator for playing the game. But as a secondary motivator, we focused on exploration. And so in this environment, there's all kinds of stuff that the player can interact with, from diary entries to interactive objects in the environment, as well as the stuff that needs to be gathered to complete the painting. So behind each painting that's in our environment, each memory of Caroline's, is a stairway that moves upwards. For Caroline, safety is represented somewhere at the top of this horrible, nightmarish mansion. And so Caroline's constantly moving upwards and upwards and upwards, pursuing safety in some form or fashion. So this is where the game starts to open up a little bit. And between each painting now, we have a different floor of the mansion. And so as we walk out into this open area right here, if you look upwards, you can see the second floor of the mansion. And Caroline doesn't have access to it right now, but she will once she unlocks her next memory. So this memory right here is one of Caroline's fondest memories. It's the first time that she was at the orphanage and she was asked to play ball with the rest of the kids. And it's the first time she really felt like she had a family again. And if you look closely at the painting, you can see that it's missing 3 different elements. The first is a ball, the second is a book, and the third is a hat. And so Caroline, realizing this, is going to go look around in the environment. And since we're in the library, there happens to be a book right here. And so Caroline's going to take that book and try to fill the painting, which completes her memory a little bit. And now we got to go find the rest of the objects. So there's moments like this where Bagman reaches in and shuts doors and makes himself apparent to the player, but doesn't actually attack, and that feeds into our sense of tension that we wanted the player to feel. At this point, the whole floor of the mansion is open, and so Caroline can choose any way she wants to go. It's kind of an open area that's blocked off, obviously, by the gate of the next memory. And so Caroline's going to go in here into the dining room in search of one of the objects. So guided by the light, by these candles right here, Caroline finds an object. It's the hat that's missing from the painting. But as she picks up the hat, she realizes Bagman has snuck into the room after her, and Caroline needs to find a way to escape. And so a lot of times in Lost in the Dark, the player is placed in a situation where they have to escape with an object and Caroline intact while trying to get away from Bagman. This time, Caroline didn't make it, but hopefully when you get your hands on Lost in the Dark, maybe she'll make it next time. So we're coming out on Steam soon. If you want to go to the Guildhall website, we have an executable you can download. You can play it right now. So hopefully you guys can help Caroline get to safety sometime here soon. So thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you, Lost in the Dark. If we can get Rebound team up here next.
Thanks, Nausha.
Yeah, thank you. We got everybody?
Make sure you're on the side of the tape so you can see. Hey, there's more space. Yeah, keep moving. Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay.
You all ready?
Hello, and we are Moonhook Studios, and we are here to present Rebound. Rebound is a third-person action-adventure game that harkens back to a lot of our personal games' childhoods, and that a lot of us grew up playing Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and later on would matured into Darksiders or Jak 2. And we decided that these type of games really influenced our childhood, and we wanted to make a game kind of like that. So in this game, you play as Avery. She's a forward scout who, if you just heard, isn't good at piloting. She has crashed into an alien ruins. Has not only destroyed her ship, but has destroyed her beacon, so she can't call home. So Avery's going to need to go around the world and find 3 pieces of the missing broken beacon and be able to attach them together so she can phone home. Luckily for Avery, she has her trusty glaive with her. The glaives she can throw around and hit switches to activate them. On top of that, she can hit any of the robots that have remained in this ancient alien civilization. On top of this, she can target with the blade. Her targeting system allows her to bounce the blade off of any object in the world before it returns to her. She can use this not only on switches next to her, but to elongate her throw. If she tries to target there, her targeting system says no. But she can bounce off the walls and be able to hit the switch this way. This one, the targeting system went through a lot of different iterations. It was actually really fascinating. It started off as a rhythm-based mechanic where you'd have to time it, button press correctly to activate the bounces, but now we're doing a more skill-based targeting approach. There's Avery's remaining pieces of her ship crashing in. Ross, our trusty playtester, is going to go and try and look into it and see if it has one of the missing pieces. We worked with a composer at SMU main campus who provided us both with this normal music you hear in the game and a battle music, and that we switch in between the battle and the normal music when you get into combat. Now, he's going to dodge a few of these platforms, and then he's going to approach a different type of puzzle. Our idea with this game was you were only given one weapon and only one mechanic with it, the blade that bounces. And what could you build around this? How could we build the player's knowledge of how to activate? Now, when Ross tries to hit the blade individually on each switch, it times out and he can't activate it. Instead, he can bounce. So not only can the bounce elongate how far you can target, but the bounce can also be used to trigger things that you can't possibly do in time. As Ross goes through this next platform, I really want to point out the camera here. The camera we took into the newest Ratchet & Clank on the PS4 and tried to emulate it perfectly, because not only do we want to emulate the gameplay styles of some of our favorite games like Jak and Daxter, we want to get the minute details correct, so when someone's playing it, they can see the influence without having to hear this 10-minute speech about it. On top of that, the art was influenced also by Creature Box, who does the character designs for Ratchet and Clank. The idea was to do a cute but sinister type of style. You see these little robots, they're firing projectiles, they're trying to hurt Avery, but they're kind of small and adorable. They'd probably be a cute little plush. The later enemies take the same style to them. Right, even if the bigger and threatening they are, and the more scary attacks they have, they still have that kind of cute, adorable factor to them. And now Ross hits another one of these bounce puzzles. This is really cool. If we were to move forward with this game, what you see in this world is a cool alien society. Later on levels, you kind of get an idea that the aliens have left something really big here. We only see the robots and we only see the writings on the walls. There's obviously something more to this world. And if we were to take more time and explore this IP, we'd love to explore more about the world itself and what makes it special. Now Ross is fighting the laser enemy. Laser enemy is unique and takes advantage of bouncing. We see Ross is trying to hit the shield, but that doesn't seem to work. Ross, what if you try and hit the main guy? What happens then? What happens, Ross was a little too slow, so they're going to combine together. So next time, when Ross separates them, he's going to try and hit the guy that seems to be powering the two shields. And on top of that, he's now freed the other robots to be hit. Our laser enemy is a scary threat when left alone, and it's something the player needs to prioritize above the other enemies. Now, moving on outside this world, like I said before, if we explore this IP a little bit more, what really appealed to us is the world. There's an untapped potential to it. We wanted to more focus on the blade and gameplay-wise, and if we expanded it, we keep it more centralized on that. I mean, there's a lot more you can explore of what can a player do with just a simple mechanic of, I have a blade, and I can bounce it off anything possible in this world. Ross could even target on the ground randomly, not points of interest, but just for fun. And when we give it to playtesters, they kind of like to do that. They see how many targets they can paint. At one point, we didn't even limit how many times you could bounce. And one guy just stood there and painted 200 targets. He counted each one individually while doing it, and then let it go. And 5 minutes later, when it was done, he was still smiling and thought it was hilarious. As you can see right there, Avery delivered her beacon. Avery's beacon, and that it gives a sense of progression to the player, while also rewarding them. We've put a shield on her, so now she can absorb a hit. The shield works similarly to how you see in Halo, where if you don't get hit for a while, it recharges. The idea is not only do we reward skilled players who might get hit once, but let's try and keep the shield back because I'm on 1 health. But it also will allow us to ramp up the amount of enemies we throw. This level, it's my personal favorite level in the game. It's just such an interesting idea of this old alien temple. You can tell it was important. It has a lot of characteristics to it. The first level was about teaching the player what they can bounce and what they can do. The second level is teaching about exploration and being able to explore the environment. But first, Ross, before he can explore, he's going to have to destroy the flying enemy. The flying enemy is the third of 4 different types of enemies. And the flying enemy, he powers up shields that protect his guns. But if you can hit him in the face, like in Star Trek where everyone has to move the damaged shields to the important area, he protects his face and suddenly his wings are exposed. Now Ross has delivered the switch. The exploration part of the level opens up. When Ross takes the elevator up, he'll pan around the camera and you can see there are 2 possible locations he can go to. And he can go to whichever one he prefers. We're almost done with the presentation, so we're going to go straight to the basement, where a scary enemy lies, a chilling enemy, that hopefully Ross can fight. We didn't turn on God mode because we love to live risky here. So Ross is going to go through the chasm. There's a lot of build up to this, and it's kind of cool and interesting. And now as Ross goes in, he's going to dash forward to try and beat the robot before it comes up in. It looks like it's another one of the little guys. We're safe. Ross, we didn't have to fight the big scary guy this time. That would have been embarrassing if we died during this. Well, I want to thank you guys on behalf of Moonhook Studios for not only listening to our game, but for listening to all the games today. It's been a wonderful opportunity, and we look forward to talking to you guys later on. Also, before I go, this game was developed on a PS4 dev kit, and it was in conjunction from the beginning of POCT of trying to get it to run constantly at 60 frames per second on a PS4, and we got it to work. So go team! Thank you.
All right, thank you again, everybody. I just want to remind y'all that these 3 games are on the USBs that we are gifting you and are located on your tables. So feel free to avail yourselves of that. We have about another 45 minutes, actually, that you can use however you wish. You can have some more food. We have dessert. Need to take a break, breather. Please use as you see fit. And then we will start back up with a hard start at 1:30 with our junior cohort, cohort 27, for just about a half hour. Kind of get their feet wet, and then we'll have the graduating students back at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.